All right, you all. Welcome to another edition of It's Just Me, hosted by Brent Fox. Tonight, I am actually going to be talking some college football, NFL football, and I'll also be going over some previous fights from last weekend. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and discuss. And if you see my eyes move, it's because I'm actually looking at the Florida Utah game. Um, Utah is up 17-3. Halftime just broke, and it appears as though Florida is off to a terrible start because they just threw an interception close to their own goal line, which is very bad. That puts Utah in a very, very great space to score again. And I think if it's 24-3, the game is just going to get out of hand. Their defense, Florida's defense, rather, did a well enough job to try to keep from completely crumbling, but I think if they score on this particular series, I think the levee's going to break and that's just going to be it. Um, in other college football news, the last time that I actually checked, Trent Dilfer, who is now a head coach at UAB, which is news to me, um, is playing North Carolina A&T, which is of course an HBCU, and Trent Dilfer's UAB Dragons are basically dragging uh, North Carolina A&T, beating them 21-0 for right now, from what I can see. Um, Also, there was a very interesting game with, excuse me, NC State and UConn. UConn is actually giving North Carolina State some fits. The game is now NC is actually winning. NC State is actually winning 17-14, but um, excuse me, UConn is giving them they are giving them fits, especially their running back Rosas. He had a touchdown run earlier in the game, and then he ripped off a 71-yard run, I think late in the second quarter. Um, so, I mean, there's the UConn running game is actually giving NC State all they can actually handle, and I'm basically here for it. You guys know how I feel about running backs. If there's any question, please refer to the running backs video I did, possibly, I think, in my second episode. Yes, you should check that out, definitely. Um, Now, as far as other college games go, I think I think Wake Forest was actually playing as well. When they flash the score again, I may be able to go over that one too. But yeah, it's a very, very exciting time as far as football goes. And, again, I'm basically here for it. This is basically like Christmas to me, um, when football starts being played. I love the game. It was my first love. And then, of course, boxing has come in and pretty much taken over. But, football is basically my first love. And, I'm not going to totally shy away from it. Um, But in other news, and just real quickly, I'm going to hit on some of the boxing topics from last week. Um, so the fight with Jared Big Baby Anderson, and there was also another fight with Alexander Usyk and excuse me, Daniel Dubois earlier last Saturday. Um, that particular fight I'm going to talk about first, the Dubois versus Usyk fight. Now, there was a lot of controversy concerning the supposed low blow that landed on Usyk. My opinion basically is that was a body shot. It was a legitimate body shot. Let me rephrase that, and it incapacitated Alexander Usyk. Um, I have never fought competitively before. Someone just comes in and says, "Oh, have you done it?" or whatever. I have done everything but fight competitively, and that will be something that someone will not be able to use pretty soon, as well. There's more news on that as time kind of transpires or goes by. But anyway, I've done all the training associated with boxing. I have studied boxing for over 2 decades at this point. And just to kind of let you guys know, I definitely know what I'm talking about when I say there is a drastic difference getting hit in your, getting hit in your family jewels as opposed to actually just getting a solid shot to your midsection. Um, the shot to your family jewels is actually going to just make you straight drop, basically. It is going to knock the air out of you. You are definitely going to feel it in that particular region. And you, more importantly, and most definitely, will be clutching your family jewels as opposed to clutching your stomach. Alexander Usyk was clutching his stomach. It was similar to the way Kovalev had gotten beaten down by Andre Ward. There was a situation where I was attending, um, kind of like a watch party at a bar, and there was a debate that actually broke out about not Usyk, I'm sorry, about Kovalev being hit low. And basically, my counter to that was if Usyk had gotten hit low, not Usyk, I'm so sorry. If Kovalev had got hit low, then he would actually be grabbing another area other than what he actually grabbed. He doubled over and clutched his stomach. He did not drop straight down and clutch his family jewels. He clutched his stomach because he got hit in his stomach. It was pretty simple for me, or so I thought. And unfortunately, I do remember there was it's a teenage kid, probably about 16 or 17, that kept referring to what Andre Ward was doing as street fighting, which was, of course, a racially undertoned statement. And he basically then, when I was, kind of disproving that particular theory, told me that, of course, I didn't know anything about boxing or whatever. His father immediately tried to, like, you know, uh, die down the situation, and so were other bar patrons. And then some strange person tried to question my boxing knowledge, and then that kind of led into a situation to where I talked to an actual boxing coach. I trained with him for a few weeks, and you know, unfortunately, I let real life get in the way of that, and had not been able to hear from him since. If you somehow get this, Coach Locks, I do appreciate what you were trying to do with me. Thank you so much for spending time and effort on me to try to help me. And I have not forgotten that at all. I will not use any excuses. I allowed things to get in the way, even though they were very adverse circumstances at the time. I still should have found a way to just keep coming back and keep training. So that's on me. I apologize, but again, I appreciate the time and effort you put in towards me. So thank you. Um, the other situation, which is a bit more pleasant, was Jared Big Baby Anderson's performance, knocking out his opponent. Um, he seemed to have put on very beautiful body work, which was very ironic from the first fight earlier, which was controversial about the body work. So anyway, he put on a body work clinic and basically got his guy out of there as a result of just beating down his body. There was also a situation in which there was a bit of an upset. Nico Walsh, unfortunately, did not come out on top of his fight. Um, but to his credit, there were some improvements from what I actually had time to actually look at. Especially defensively, he was a bit more responsible defensively, and making sure that he was able to successfully block. There was a parry involved, and then he was able to just kind of move out of the way of some of the shots, but unfortunately, he he still has this thing where he'll still kind of linger around after throwing some good shots, and is subject for return fire. And then there are some cases to where he may not um, it may not register to him what else to do after he does something, which, I mean, when you're early on in your boxing career, that's going to happen. But nonetheless, I'm not going to kick this man while he's down. um, it did not appear that he did enough to actually convincingly win the fight. um, so a draw or possibly a close loss like this one was not something that was utterly ridiculous or out of the question, rather. Um, I usually try to watch fights with the sound off so I do not hear commentary to sway my judgment in any way. Um, but from what little I was actually able to look at, he just could not capitalize on some of the opportunities that his opponent was giving him. Um, the opponent had a very awkward style, of course, but I think that if Walsh invested a bit more to the body initially, then I think systematically he may have had a better chance of trying to break his opponent down and then maybe securing victory that way. But I think it turned into too much of a contest early on, and that I think is what really did in Nico Walsh. So, but I do wish Mr. Walsh I do wish Mr. Walsh a comeback, a speedy comeback, and be able to kind of just learn from this experience and then grow from it. I am not ready to call him Mr. Nico Ali Walsh just quite yet. I think that if he does things on his own merit, um, like possibly win a championship, um, then yeah, I would probably be more accepting for him to kind of carry that name. If you go in with that particular name, then there's a lot of expectations that you have to live up to. And basically, I would prefer Mr. Walsh to just not use that particular name initially. And then possibly when he becomes a little bit more successful, he could use that name. Uh, and this is just for me, just off principle, what I would think would be if there was a famous name attached to me, or there was a famous person in my bloodline. Basically, what I would want to do is be able to earn things off of my own merit. I would not try to market that particular name or anything else like that until I actually became successful on my own. That did not happen in that case. I don't resent Nico Walsh for that. I do resent Top Rank for trying to promote someone that way without them actually earning it. Um, there are lots and lots of folks that unfortunately, when Top Rank actually promotes them, they do not live up to the hype. Vasil Lomachenko. Yes, I I don't have a personal problem with that man. I really don't even have a problem as far as him as an individual fighter. I do have a problem, however, with the hype that was actually surrounding him that he did not earn. Yes, he was a double gold medalist. Yes, he was the best amateur in boxing history. I won't deny him that. But in the professional game, it's a lot different. Unfortunately, people have to start off with a clean slate. And let's not forget, Mr. Vasily Lomachenko had lost his second fight. His second fight. He lost his second fight to Orlando Salido, trying to win a championship. Now, he did come back, I think, his third fight against Gary, and then wound up taking his belt. But again, you know, I think with some of these promoters, they become too ambitious and greedy and just want to overhype the fighter, and then when they don't live up to expectations, they basically throw him away just like the public would, which is terrible. I'm kind of seeing that happen to Earl Spence Jr. I do not like the way that it seems as though PBC is actually just kind of distancing themselves from Earl Spence Jr. I mean, he was their guy before the Terrence Crawford fight, and now that Crawford unfortunately has soundly defeated him, now it's a situation where they're kind of keeping their distance. This is exactly the behavior that would deter someone from making a great fight because if you do not come out on the victorious end of that particular fight, everyone basically disowns you. That should not be the case. We should be able to believe that these fighters would come back from adversity and be able to overcome. That makes for a more interesting story than being undefeated for 50 fights. That is not, and let me repeat, that is not a slight at the great Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather has done something exceptional. That should not be the rule. Okay, let me repeat that so you can understand it. Floyd Mayweather had actually done something phenomenal, and it was an exceptional thing that he has done. Okay, not everybody has been able to do that. As a matter of fact, no one else had in boxing history, male, excuse me, had not been able to win 50 consecutive fights and not have a loss. Okay? That's just that's just how competitive boxing actually is. You are fighting the best men in the world. Um, and unfortunately, someone is going to have your number. Um, which is why I admire Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis, even though he does have losses on his record, was able to defeat every man that he's faced. Such is true at to this point with Jermell Charlo. I hope that actually still stays intact and he is able to have enough to defeat Canelo Alvarez. Although, if I had to pick right now, Canelo Alvarez would still be victorious in that particular fight. Um, and then just kind of moving on to boxing news, there was something that just flashed and said that the rematch between Earl Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford is going to be back on. The date was to be announced. Um, my initial thoughts on that are basically the same when Earl had been defeated. I do not think or believe that even though Earl does get to rehydrate and may become a little bit stronger, that is going to resolve the issue. This could potentially be worse. I am an Earl Spence fan. No, no, no. I'm not going to say I'm a fan. I'm an Earl Spence supporter. Okay, I support that man. Ever since he had actually gone to the Olympics, I have purchased fight tickets. I have merchandise. I've bought pay-per-views. To me, and I understand where he's coming from with the "Who raised y'all" statement. And this is just me looking at it realistically. This is not me trying to protect him. This is not me trying to put on a cape and actually just save him or whatever. Okay. As a boxing fan, looking at this objectively, because I'm taking all emotions out of it, If there is a situation in which a man defeats you soundly and basically has answers for everything that you have done as far as your fight style, all right, it is not a situation to where you can rehydrate up to another weight class. Think that just because you may be able to punch harder and then be able to kind of withstand punches better because your weight has actually gone up does not necessarily mean that you can get back in there with one training camp, not change too much, and then still become victorious. It's just not a realistic expectation, which, quite frankly, concerns me. Um, there has to be changes actually made to Earl Spence's fighting style because, again, Terrence Crawford had answers to everything Earl Spence Jr. was trying to execute. It is not a situation to where Terrence Crawford just went in there, mopped him up, and that was it. If it were, then I'd feel much, much more confident about the weight going up. I think in this case, with them going up in weight at 154 is what I'm assuming. Um, this could be much, much worse. It is a situation to where Terrence Crawford also is going to have more power, and what that basically means is that the night could actually end a lot sooner than most anticipated. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong, and I will still, because I'm a supporter of both fighters, I will still tune in and watch the fight. But I am not very confident that Earl Spence Jr. would be able to defeat Terrence Crawford, even though that there is a weight change. Um, and then getting on to NFL football, I just saw that the Vikings actually extended tight end TJ Hawkinson. He has he basically is getting a uh, deal to where he's making roughly around 17 million per year, which is wow, which is stunning. I did not realize, I guess, how invaluable he is to the Minnesota Vikings. I do remember him playing for Detroit and being a decent, excuse me, and being a decent tight end, but I did not know that Minnesota valued him that much and that he played that well. Congratulations to him. I'm definitely not hating. Um, I just, yeah, I just kind of found that very surprising. Um, which means that if our tight end, who is excuse me, Pat Fryermuth, when he's actually up to get paid, what is the situation actually going to be like? Especially since we drafted another gentleman by the name of Darnell Washington, and we've also parted ways with Zach Gentry as tight end as well. Um, and since we're on the subject of my Steelers, I'm very, very excited about them being able to play San Francisco week one. There is going to be, of course, another follow up video next week when we get closer to the start of the season. Um, very, very, very excited about us, first of all, playing our first home game, I think, since the in the past 7 seasons, I think it's been a while since we've had our own uh, uh, um, an opening home game. We're usually road warriors the first week of the season, and most of the time we've actually been successful with that strategy. So I can't wait to kind of find out what the new look Steelers are going to wind up being. Um, so far, Kenny Pickett has actually played very well in the preseason. George Pickens has looked good. Deontay Johnson, who is sorely underestimated, has also looked well. Um, And if I can for a moment, Deontay Johnson's route running is very, very underrated. Um, he runs routes so fluidly and so well that it causes one of the largest degrees of separation um, per route in the NFL. Like, people really have to look and research that. The reason that he gets so much work and so many targets, he had 80 targets. I mean, excuse me, he had 80 receptions last year, and that was an off year. He had 80 receptions for, I think it was 800 plus yards. That was an off year. Okay. 80 receptions is an off year for somebody. Yeah, I again believe Deontay Johnson is going to wind up being a 90 catch receiver. Um, and then I think that he'll have another 1,000 yard season to boot. I think that he will actually get maybe 6 to 7 touchdowns this season. I do not think that he's going to be, I don't think that he's actually not going to score a touchdown this season. I think that that's probably going to go out of the window. Um, do I look for him to actually score the first game out? Probably not, but I think he may be able to score against the Browns. Um, and I definitely think that he should be able to get a touchdown grab against the Houston Texans. I think later on, I think week 4 or something like that. But yeah, I'm very excited about the possibility of him doing well as well. George Pickens is someone else that people are very, very excited about. He is incredibly gifted as an athlete. He is able to just do some phenomenal things routinely, and it is the excitement of him being able to execute that when it really counts. It is again very, very exciting. Um, I believe that Pickens may also wind up having a breakout year. I think that he may be um, an 80 plus catch receiver, but I also think that he may come close to actually getting 1,000 yards, if not maybe slightly over. Um, and I think that also Jalen Warren, who has performed magnificently this preseason, is probably going to get a few more touches than he got last year, which leads me to believe that maybe Najee gets 1,000 yards despite that, but I think that it's going to be really close. I think that it's going to be a situation like it was last year, not to where he goes to like a very slow start and then things actually pick up like later on in the season. I think that it's just a situation of where he may consistently gain yards per game, but it just edges over 1,000, or it may actually be or it may actually be just under 1,000, because the Steelers may want to give Jalen Warren a few more touches than he had last year. You're not going to be able to deny a guy who actually makes clutch catches and then rips off like a 60 plus yard run in the preseason, even though it's just a preseason against number one defensive starters for the Buffalo Bills. You do not, or you're not able to like deny someone like that the ball. Like you're going to have to give him the ball, and you're going to have to make that situation with him and Najee Harris work. So I'm kind of excited to see the possibility of that. I do support Najee Harris. He was a first round draft pick. I do want to see him successful. He does actually have a broader skill set and a broader talent spectrum than people actually give him credit for. He is capable of actually catching the ball and and then making things happen downfield, much like he had his rookie season when he had the 20 receptions against the Bengals, and then also the clutch reception that he actually had against both. Las Vegas Raiders, and then the Baltimore Ravens. That is just not that is just not like a talent pool. I'm sorry, a talent spectrum or a, skill set that everybody just has. So I'm looking for Najee to do well, both rushing the ball and also receiving the ball as well. Um, I think our defense is going to do quite well as well. Um, I know for a fact if Cam Hayward stays healthy, he is a force to be reckoned with. Our two inside linebackers, which are I'm sorry, Cole Holcomb and Elandon Roberts, I believe those two gentlemen will be very, very good against the run. I think the zone scheme or zone blitzing scheme will actually help them as far as as far as coverage goes. We have tremendous players such as Minka Fitzpatrick, Patrick Peterson, and then a very, very underrated Levi Wallace. I think Levi Wallace will probably do well this season. Whether or not he has some type of breakout or Pro Bowl season remains to be seen, but I think that he, at minimum, will at least have a solid season to where he can, to where he can actually be very useful and productive to the Steelers. I think that he will probably have some clutch interceptions as the season goes by, and I think that he'll be a key factor in us winning games. My, of course, concern is to just make sure that these guys stay healthy in order to contribute the way that they should. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, I'm extremely excited about the possibilities this season as far as my Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, I think my prediction before the season is we will probably wind up either going 10-7 because there are 17 games that are being played. So it'll be 10-7, or we'll possibly go 11-6. I don't think realistically we'll go too much beyond that, even though we have improved roster wise. I think that it is very difficult to win in the NFL regardless of who you're playing. So that's why I only gave one or two games um, as far as an improvement versus last season. Um, Whether or not I think that we do go to the playoffs, and honestly, I do think that we cause an upset in the wild card game. The divisional game, I think we may get ousted out. I just don't think that we're probably mentally ready to keep moving forward as far as advancing to the Super Bowl, even though Coach Tomlin does have Super Bowl experience. Um, I just I just don't think that we're quite there yet, but I think that we can definitely easily get there and start, of course, winning, championships if this kind of goes as planned. Um, I'm very excited again about the possibilities of that and can't wait until the season actually gets started. I think that is actually it, you guys. I do appreciate anyone who actually tunes in. Please keep checking out this channel. I really do feel and appreciate the support that I do get. Shouts out to my real life family, my extended family, and also the LDBC family as well. I love all you guys. Thank you again for your support. I can't say thank you enough. And until next time, or next Thursday, rather, y'all be easy.